This, obviously, it's about hospitality, is rooted in dining room people. But we were talking to our labor attorney, I don't know, a year ago, and she was explaining how America is not a manufacturing economy anymore. It's a service economy. And so hospitality, I think a lot of the people in this room can attest to the fact that A, it just makes doing what you do feel better. And B, in many cases, it helps make you more money and feel good and recruit better people and all of that. And so hospitality, we believe strongly, is not something just for the restaurant industry. It's something that is required in so many more walks of life. And it's actually pretty cool this year. From last year, the number of people who are here that are not a part of the restaurant business, and that's really encouraging. And so this is a good example. Jon Batiste and I became friends about 3 years ago. I was invited to a loft space right near the Nomad, and he and his band were playing. Just a few things about him, some credentials. John's a jazz musician, a badass jazz musician. He's from New Orleans, and he went to Julliard. And he was going to leave for New York for his Julliard audition, and then Katrina hit, and so he was unable to get there. He called them from a payphone in a bar. I'm really not making this up. Explained the situation, and then said, hey, what if I just play for you right now? And they're like, what? And he goes, yeah, just hold on a second. And he hung the payphone down from the thing, went over to the piano in the bar, played, and that's how he was accepted to Julliard. So the guy is intense, obviously. We met in this loft space, really connected, and we did a party. A couple years ago, he played in the library and then did a love riot. You'll understand what that means soon, down to 11 Madison Park, and we had a bigger concert there. And we became friends through that. And about a year ago, we were in the library at the Nomad together, and he says, hey man, and I'm not gonna try to impersonate him, you'll get it in a second. I was on stage playing with Prince at Madison Square Garden. I'm like, okay, that's awesome. And he goes, it wasn't anywhere near as fulfilling as the show we did together. He believes in social music. That's his phrase. And the reason he said that was because he doesn't want to be blinded by lights, not able to see the people he's performing for in and out of a city in a couple days with an absolute inability to connect with those around him. He doesn't believe that music is intended to be played at people. It's intended to be played with people. And yeah, he's not in the restaurant business, but I think his whole belief system embodies hospitality as effectively as anyone I've ever met. And last week, it was announced that he is going to be the new band leader on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. So please welcome to the stage, Jon Batiste.
How you feeling? Hello. Yeah. Hello. Yeah. Everybody say yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Wow. So yeah, man. We just hanging out. Check this out. Just playing backstage. I was remembering this tune. Y'all remember that one, right? That was bad. Woo, shucks. God dog it. Ooh, shucks. Get this one going right here. Let me hear that bright face. Now, when it gets to the part where you clap your hand, I want you to stomp your feet. Check it out. So, I'm not a restaurateur. I play music. But when I was talking to Will, he was saying, tell him about your definition of hospitality and how you bring people into the music. And hopefully it can relate to hospitality in a restaurant or hospitality in any part of your life, which, you know, part of my definition comes from growing up in Louisiana, where food, drink, and music, it happens everywhere. Not just in restaurants and in venues, but literally in the streets. I have memories of growing up seeing people second line, and it's a certain dance that I was kind of doing right there, with like a plate of barbecue in their hand, cigarette balanced in the mouth, with like some beverage, alcoholic most likely, in the other hand, in broad daylight, just doing their thing. Happens in the street, happens in the community. I remember playing for barbecues when I was first starting out playing. I started on drums, about 9 years old. We were playing backyard barbecues. There's actually a beat called the backyard beat, where the drummer plays this thing, doom, takum, doogum, cat, doogum, doom, takum, doogum, cat, doogum. Sound like you're in the backyard, you know, doom, doogum, doom, takum. And the grill is going, and that beat is specifically played in that situation. I mean, it's music for everything. It's music for when people die, jazz funeral. When people die, they celebrate. So it's about this person is going on to a greater place. Let's celebrate the best things about them and our memories of them and everything that happened in their life so that people can know, man, this person brought us a lot of joy. We loved him or her. So they march through the street and the family, whoa, where you at? And the family, they take the first line and they go into the church, right? So you have the body and they bring the body in, and then they bring the body out of the church after the ceremony. And the second line is the family members who are not in the immediate family, and also the friends and anybody else who was on the street or hanging out, and the band. And they go out of the church and they wail. And it's in the streets throughout the neighborhood, and it can go on for hours. There's also music on Sunday. It's just Sunday music. It's the same thing, but it just happens on every Sunday. And that's just second line. It's not connected with the jazz funeral. There's music for when people are born. Anyway, you get the point. I'm just thinking about all the different types of music I grew up listening to and being a part of in the social fabric of New Orleans. I was born into the Batiste family in New Orleans. My dad is a bass player. My uncles, he had 7 brothers. They formed a band together. That was the family band. It was them and family friends, and then the cousins as, you know, the sons of the brothers, and myself included. We got older, we played in the family band. After we played in the family band, we started playing in our own bands. We had the junior family band. And then everybody played drums, because it was the easiest instrument to just pick up. Oh, beat it, beat it, beat it, beat it. So I pick up the drum. Next thing you know, we have 3 drummers. So like, we can't have the junior family band, so it was a question of how do we form a band? So I had to switch to the piano. Switched to the piano when I was 11, and we started playing around. And I like to tell people when they go to New Orleans for the first time, I have a bet. If you go to New Orleans 4 days out of the week in any venue, I guarantee you a Batiste will be in one of the ensembles. Guaranteed. If you go any club, pick a club, and I've never lost. So I have 30 cousins that play. Last time I checked, I used to be the youngest, totally not anymore. And my uncles, they still play. My dad is a great musician. Then there's my extended family, and they're in the brass band tradition. They're in funk music tradition, soul music tradition. Play with Isaac Hayes, actually backed up the Pink Floyd for a while. Sonny and Cher, producers, lots of different styles of music. So as that relates to me and my definition of hospitality, I grew up, I didn't really think about music as being something that was supposed to just stay in a venue, and as something that was separate, like different genres, different things. Like, You have folk music and jazz and all of that. All that stuff actually came about because record people wanted to sell music. So they were like, well, we got to organize it. And then how we going to market it to people? We got to figure out what to call it and what do these people like. So let's call it that and market it to them. I don't like staying on stage. I'm going to come out here. So then the idea of all of that stuff came about. But in New Orleans, for whatever reason, at the turn of the century, you had this huge port city. Actually, at the end of the 1800s, if you think about it in context with the early Americas, you have the idea of New Orleans being this port city and the slaves coming in and they bring the drums, and it's the biggest port city at the time. So you have all of these different influences coming in. You got the Irish, you got the French, you got the Spanish, then you have the English, and they have a different way of colonization than the French, and they have a certain laissez-faire sort of way of letting the slaves play in Congo Square. So they have this music that's bubbling up from all these different cultures, trading, this confluence of cultures. And it's coming together, and the synthesis is the first time it's ever happened in the world. In the world. Like all these people coming together. It's the first time it ever happened in New Orleans. So then it sits there and it marinates, and you create this form of music that's later called jazz. But at the time, it was just, that's what they played. It was everything put together. So like it's called jazz, and for whatever reason in New Orleans, it's still, it kept that energy over the last 100 years or so. It's just still there. So when you go to New Orleans, there's still people playing on the street. There's still music for everything. There's still this kind of mix, this synthesis, it's gumbo, if you will. So it's like it's all in there. And that's what I grew up playing, all the different styles of music, doing all of this different, what I call social music. It's root music. But then something happened and we got away from that. We got away from the idea of music being in the community and people playing music and sharing music and having easy access to it. You know, I was wondering about that when I first moved to New York. In 2005, I was here. It's almost, 10 years ago. Dang, I'm getting old. I was 17. I was like, man, you know, I want to go to New York, check it out. And I went into it, and I started to develop, you know, with the band. I put together a band. I started to play with a lot of people who are mentors for me. I got a chance to play with all of these people who I really, really love and listened to growing up. And then the idea hit me. I was like, man, people usually don't have enough money to come to the concert, the better the music is. They come to the venue and the stage is over there and we're up here, and they love us and they have this deep connection to the music that we're making, but there's like this wall between us and we don't really connect beyond a certain point. And then the idea of, in different styles of music, if you go to jazz music, shh, be quiet, don't talk. You gotta wear like a suit, or you gotta wear some type of regalia, put yourself together and go out. It's like a lot of effort involved in going to something where you're not really that free. You're just there. And that's cool, but if that's the only option, there's a problem. That's the opportunity that I saw. I was like, well, wait a minute. There's an opportunity for a new consumer experience in the music space, where if you have this thing that was once a part of the fabric of everybody's life, you there, you hanging out. And even in early Appalachia, I was talking about Africa with the drum circle, Appalachia, they had the fiddles. They passed the fiddles around, the bluegrass music, Irish Celtic music. They have all of these styles of music where you just see that it's a part of sharing, it's a part of life. In New Orleans, all of the early music, march music, John Philip Sousa when they march, and everybody has the marching bands, and it's like the fair, like people still have county fairs somewhere. But like, that was the thing. There was always Scott Joplin would write rags, and they passed the rags to different people to play because they didn't have records. You see, RCA Victor was actually the first person, or not the first person, first business that started to make vinyl, and it started to boom, and that's when the record business started to sell, and that's when pop stars were invented, and that's when mainstream music started to be commodified, and all of this stuff was able to kind of transcend, okay, well, we used to just sit around the piano and somebody had to know how to play. And if we wanted to hear a song, we buy the sheet music and we sit down and we play it together. And everybody comes together as a family. And we listen to the music and we play and we sing. And Christmas time, we sing Christmas carols and all of that stuff. Oh, well, now we got records, so let's just spin the record. Oh, now he's selling a bunch of records. Let's market him. Let's put him in a bigger venue so that we can sell more tickets. Let's sell more tickets and keep him further away so that people, they want to get at him even more. It's like he's the man. He's the man. Like, sell more, sell. But then what happens with the music? That's good to present the music in a way where it's up here, but also, what about the people down here? So what we did with Will, man, Will was a bad cat. You're a bad man. What we did, we came up with this idea of this experience that I feel like is missing, the social music experience, where you have the ability to grab someone who's doing some great stuff in the business of food and drink, like Will, yeah, man, bad cat. And take that energy, blend it with your energy of your music, and then now with the world the way it is now, you have so many third parties that you can tap, like Chase, to create this experience and help you pay for it. So we were like, man, what can we do to make it accessible to people who are from all different types of socioeconomic backgrounds? You got all these different people that may not be able to experience food, drink, and music to that level or of that type of experience because they just don't have access to it, don't know about it, don't think they'll like it. Well, let's make the ticket prices super low, like anybody could get the ticket. And then let's go to the audience that we want to reach that we don't think that will be able to access this, or we don't think that they'd be interested in this. And let's go to them. Let's reach out to them. That means we go every city that we go to. Right now when we tour, we go to juvenile detention centers, we go to prisons, we go to schools, every city. We were on tour for 9 months last year. We went to one in every single city. And you see that people there, man, my man from the Broad Street Ministry too, that's it, man. They need it more than everybody. So we go to them, we figure out, okay, so how do we bring them in? So we got the young people from the schools, because there's no music education programs anymore. People kind of just think that that's not really important, which is cool. It's an opportunity for us. So we go to the schools. we bring the people in who need it the most. We set the ticket prices low, and we create the experience where there is no stage. We had this concept when we were coming up with this event that we're doing at the end of this month at the Nomad, where Will's gonna host it in this amazing place, create this wonderful array of food and drink. I'm gonna curate the music. Chase is gonna pay for it. And then what ends up happening is, what is this experience gonna be like? Well, when people walk in, there's a different experience for every single person that we're trying to access, a type of person. So each night is different. There's no stage. Sometimes what we do is we call it a love riot, where we go out into the streets or in public places and bring the music from what is the stage anywhere. I mean, we did this for a year where we played on the subway in New York City on the moving train with the band, literally to people not asking for money, literally sitting there just looking at us like, what are you busking? And then we started playing, and we'd play for 30 minutes and put on a full concert, and they'd be like, wow. Thank you. And that's how we built a lot of our fan base in the early days of the band. So people will come in, we embrace them with this music and this food and these different musical experiences that I curate. And then what happens is, at the end of it, we create something and we share it with them via social media, via all of the different sites that we put up around the event. And it's something that lives on, so the next time that we go back to this community that we stayed in for 7 or 8 days or 10 days, there's a connection there with all of the people, especially the people who may not have had access to it before. So ultimately, that's what I'm about, and hopefully there's something in there that's resonant with what you're about, and I hope that one day I see you at a love riot, at a social music experience. I hope you watch me on TV. And I hope you also come out live and check it out. I wanted to spend the last part of this opening it up for any questions, because, you know, I think it's good to have a dialogue. I don't want to just sit here and talk at you. But if you have any questions, great. If not, we can jam some more.
I have one.
Oh, go ahead.
I would know about your family and what they think about you being in the city and now with your success and your different projects.
My family is ultra supportive. They've been really good to support me in the endeavor of moving to New York when I was so young and not having family here. And they also were really helpful in early in my development, showing me the ropes of the music business and showing me all of the different things that I had to learn about. How do you lead a band? How do you put together things like a presentation to an audience? You know, just all types of things that maybe if I grew up somewhere else outside of Louisiana, I wouldn't have been fortunate enough to be around. So it was kind of a natural progression. By the time I was 17, I had done a lot of things in music, and I felt New Orleans was not limiting, but I wanted to see where else I could go with it. And they were like, hey, go ahead, do it. There was somebody.
We have a little New Orleans contingent here. We're still
Woo! You know about the backyard beat, then
come up here to hear music and Winton and all of our wonderful ambassadors, and it's like you said, you're supposed to be quiet and listen, and you know that's not how we do it at home.
No. What the thing about it is there's a sense of superiority that we view the European classical aesthetic and how they present music. And I think for whatever reason, that's translated into contemporary culture. You know, in the early days, they would have a court and people would get commissioned to write a piece, like Bach, he would write for the church or he would write for the court. And then they would present the music in a concert hall, and then opera was the community music. So that's what you would have, these amphitheaters and outdoor theaters, people would sing. And then they built concert halls for it. And that was something that was started way before any type of early American folk music. But then we took to that tradition, and now it's become the norm, even in pop music. It's a form of, we create a venue, people buy tickets to go see it, and there's a certain type of dialogue between the performer and the audience that's accepted, and everything else is not accepted. And it's different for each venue. But if you look at early music, it never was like that. And New Orleans is special because we kind of kept some of that grease, and it's still like that. And I think there's a lot that we can learn from that right now that's missing in the music space. So there's an experience there that draws from the old, but I think is also with the way people connect now with social media. And you can, at the touch of a button, talk to somebody in Japan, almost the closest thing to being in the room with them. There's so many different ways to connect now. So there's a new experience drawing on the old, but taking this new stuff. And I think New Orleans music and that culture is already, it's in there, you know?
Oh, let's chase.
Hey! Yeah! Give her a hand.
I'm a dial into Tulane post-Katrina.
Oh.
Anyway, my question is, a musician, a restaurant, and a big bank.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of interesting the way that you're talking about delivering authentic experiences to consumers.
Right.
And I'm just wondering if you have more of those kinds of examples that could inspire us to think a little bit differently.
Well, it really depends on the ingredients. You know, who is the restaurateur? Who is the musician? And who is the sponsor? Because you got to think about where do all three of their values align? And where that is where the magic is. Will and I were having a conversation because we're just friends. He was talking about what he was going through in his business. I was talking about what we just did on our tour. And we hit a point where it struck a chord. And it was, wow, you think that way too. That's deep, man. We need to do something about this. And then he approached you guys, and you think that way too. I think the idea is about figuring out what is this that I do that I can team up with somebody else to do, that I can team up with this person over here to do, that will bring this new experience to the people who need it the most. And that comes in the imagination of those three parties or whoever's involved, those ingredients. So another example could be, well, say I'm a classical musician and I am tired of playing in venues where the audience is a certain type, a certain demographic, and there's a certain behavioral way that, for whatever reason, has been set in stone. Nobody can go outside of this box. So then I could say, well, I want to create music for people in X community. And they never hear classical music. They don't know about this whole behavioral pattern that people have been stuck in for years. And they would benefit from experiencing this, which they never would have the opportunity to do so. So let's find somebody in this community to team up with who believes in this, that we share that same value. Oh, well, say you find X restaurateur in the community who says, well, man, I've been wanting to do something for these young people over here, but I don't know how to do it. I serve food. We don't have anything for them. I don't really know how to welcome them in. Plus our prices are up here. They can't pay that. So you see what I'm saying? That's just a hypothetical situation, but it can be, it's endless. That's the beauty of it. It truly is endless. But it starts from the perspective of social engagement and the ingredients being aligned with each other. You see?
I'm loving the smushing together of the art and business of restaurants and
Smush.
when you walk into a restaurant, like what blows your mind particularly about the experiences?
It depends on what I'm going for. If I'm bringing a date and I want to impress her, I like it to be a scene. You know, it's got to be a scene. There's room for everything, basically. But also, I grew up, again, with Louisiana food. Some of the best stuff is in a hole in the wall that only opens at certain hours. And they open up for, like, the truckers. And you go there, and you got to pay her extra, and she'll cook up a storm. But you got to go there at, like, 4 a.m., because it only is open real late, and it's, like, not really a business. Like, during the day, it might be, like, a dry cleaner. So, like, that vibe is killing too. I'm into both. I think that there's room for everything in between that. But again, it all depends on what is the experience. That's what it is, actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's hitting me right now. It's about the experience. Because the experience is what you go anywhere for. And the unique experience that you can create by teaming up with different people who don't usually come together is something that will be unique in the world. It's just based on the imagination of the people and how their values align. I mean, it's killing. Yeah, I hope that answers.
So you're going to be viewed by millions of people every single night going forward. I'm just curious. I'm curious, how do you plan to adapt your message? How do you plan to disseminate your important message?
I think that when you talk about television, there's an experience from looking at the TV and connecting with somebody on a regular basis. It's almost like you feel that you know them. Like when you watch, even if it's somebody playing a character, a cast member on a fictional show, you feel like you know that character. But for me, I think that plays in my favor for what it is that I'm about, because when we do go into a community, they've been seeing me, and I've been presenting my concept in the context of this show. So it's even better than if I toured around in these huge venues and I was far away. It's a talk show. We'll be talking. It's like I'm in your living room talking to you. That's what we're gonna be doing. So I think it's a better, in a weird way, it's a better venue for me to be in than, say, like MSG or something like that. Because the connection the experience of watching a television show is actually more intimate in some ways, even though you're not there. You see?
How can us as restaurant people and food people, I guess, view music better in our restaurants? So we bring like Will, a lot of things together. And oftentimes music is thought of as an afterthought, and either to a lot of our guests it's a nuisance, or it's too loud, or it's not right, it's the wrong tone, or this is the wrong feel. How do we do better with music as one of the ingredients to our product, who we are and our experience?
Man, you made me think of one of my early experiences in New York was I played in a restaurant in the West Village for about 2.5 years. We played 2 months. Sometimes we would play 4 times a month, every week. And it was, I think the pay was about $250 for the whole band, 4 hours, and we didn't get fed the whole 4 hours. We got the food, but we had to pay for it, and it was half off, and it was the band menu. It was like a whole vibe. It was deep, man. That just reminded me of that. But the idea, But the idea of, I'm just saying that to say that the idea of music being in a restaurant is something that there's not really a place for it unless you create an experience where the music was an integral part to begin with. You see what I'm saying? It's like an afterthought most times. So from the perspective of the musician, it's actually difficult to figure out what to do, because you're trying to negotiate a bunch of different variables at the same time. You have the person who here may like the music, and in the next table, they're like, can you not play that? And then the person in the back, I can't hear it. Can you play something more up? And then the guy who owns it is like, well, man, I don't know. And then and at the end of the day, it doesn't actually add to the bottom line. It's there, but it's not, it just is almost ambiance. It's not actually something that people go to the place to experience 9 times out of 10. So when something isn't really an integral part of the vision from the beginning, that's what happens. But I think that there is a place for music in that context too. It just has to be very carefully thought out, even if it's something that is background. That's great if there's a thought put into it and it's not an afterthought. That's what I would say.
Will you jam for us?
I mean, I think I might be able to play something. Whoa. 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 Oh. Hey, hey. 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 Whoa. Hey. Hey, 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 hey. Go down below. The people get along. Yeah, y'all gotta stand up out your seat. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. If you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. Boom! Hey! Hey!